has claimed yet another high-profile strike, and that is against Russia's Black Sea Fleet on Thursday.
A critical flashpoint in the war of Ukraine. Russia's naval dominance is being challenged like never before.
Near a place called Novorossiysk, a Russian port city on the Black Sea. Ukraine said that they hit the Russian ship with a drone.
What happens when submarines worth billions, carrying Russia's elite Spetsnaz, surface just 3 kilometers off Ukraine's coast, only to find they've walked into a digital trap? In under 40 minutes, 5 massive vessels were shredded, dozens imploded beneath the waves, and hundreds of operators either killed or forced to surrender. The answer lies in a network of machines, radars, and guns guided by near-instant AI decisions. Stay with me, because once you see how it unfolded minute by minute, you'll never look at modern warfare the same way again. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. 600 of Russia's most feared operators believed the sea and the night sky would conceal them. Their boots touched Ukrainian soil with the confidence of men certain they were unseen. But those first steps sent signals they could not hear. It was a landing meant to be silent.
On and near occupied Crimea. Let's have a look at the videos from the front line.
The Ukrainian military intelligence said that its special forces struck a Russian vessel.
This week, we have reports of another significant blow to Putin's fleet. Now we begin with a flurry of heavy Ukraine attacks.
The kind written into training manuals and rehearsed in sealed facilities. Instead, every vibration they created traveled through the ground like an echo into waiting ears. And those ears were not human. Hours before dawn, 5 submarines surfaced off the coast near Odessa. The timing was chosen with deliberate precision. In the pre-dawn gray, shadows stretch long, visibility blurs, and foreign shapes blend into the background. The flotilla rose from the Black Sea, slowing to reduce wake and noise, then maneuvered into formation like armored whales preparing to shed their cargo. Their commanders had studied currents and weather patterns, predicting that mist would roll inland, masking their movements even further. In their minds, it was the perfect backdrop for an incursion designed to catch tired defenders off guard. The hatches opened one after another, and small rafts inflated like black scales across the water. Each submarine offloaded precisely 50 men, the numbers chosen for efficiency and discipline. These were operators carrying light packs and compact weapons, built for speed, not endurance. Their commanders believed stealth was their armor. To ensure silence, missiles had been removed from storage bays. That sacrifice left the submarines less menacing at sea, but the Russians trusted that surprise was more valuable than firepower. Their objective was narrow: strike quickly, cripple communication centers, and retreat before resistance could mobilize. What none of them realized was that the battlefield had changed. Ukraine had buried an invisible web beneath the soil surrounding the approach routes. This was not a crude tripwire or a line of mines. It was a map lattice of 240 hidden seismic and motion sensors that turned the Earth itself into a listening device. Each unit was no bigger than a fist, sealed against moisture, and almost impossible to spot once covered. Collectively, they formed a digital minefield. What distinguished them from earlier systems was precision. The grid could sense not just footsteps, but the exact weight pressing down, and translate that pressure into estimates of numbers, pace, and even formation patterns. That invisible network cost $85 million to install, maintained by drones and patrols that never drew attention to themselves. But its value showed in seconds. The moment the Russian rafts touched the shoreline and boots pressed into the sand, seismic traces registered. The readings weren't vague blips. Algorithms calibrated pressure against expected signatures, identifying trained soldiers in formation rather than scattered civilians. Within the first 90 seconds, Ukrainian observers at the command hub didn't just have awareness of intruders. They had a map of how many were coming, where they were stepping, and what their movements suggested about intent. There were still cracks in the shield. As the intruders advanced inland, one Ukrainian drone patrolling at low altitude suddenly dropped from the network, its feed reduced to static. Electronic jamming was the likely cause, a reminder that Russian teams carried portable suppressors designed to blind cameras and disrupt unshielded channels. At roughly the same time, a BTR-4E positioned near a fallback lane registered a hydraulic failure. Its operators watched fluid stream into the dirt, rendering the vehicle immobile until repair crews could arrive. To Russian planners, both of these failures would have represented a widening gap just waiting to be exploited. Yet no such gap appeared. The system adapted faster than any human commander could. Artificial intelligence, integrated into the network, rerouted the surveillance chain, compensating for the missing drone by amplifying inputs from nearby sensors. The hydraulic failure was logged instantly, then factored into predictive modeling. Routes Russians would likely probe were recalculated, and the kill zones shifted slightly without anyone on the ground giving an order. In the dim night, Ukraine's network tracked advancing squads as though floodlights were already shining down on them. How did Ukraine's defenses see men trained to be ghosts? The answer was buried in those detectors. Every step forced molecules of the earth to shift. Even the quietest crawl carried vibration that passed into the layer of technology beneath the soil. Sensors and motion detectors combined those signals to produce coordinates precise enough to plot positions on a live grid. The Russians' camouflage and suppressed radios meant nothing. Their very weight became a beacon. Instead of being invisible, they were walking with signs over their heads. Each thought they were pressing forward unseen, but to Ukrainian defenses, the map looked like a live broadcast of advancing dots. By the time Spetsnaz teams clustered at the tree line, their shapes had already been digitized, copied, and stored. The same steps meant to move them closer to their target instead walked them straight into a funnel. As one squad shifted into position, their boots crossed into the first boundary of a kill zone, already waiting to snap shut. As the soldiers advanced, Ukrainian heavy vehicles stayed hidden in sheds and tree lines, engines cold and lifeless to avoid being picked up by infrared scans. Crewmen inside those vehicles sat strapped in, waiting with hands on triggers, but disciplines drilled into them not to move a muscle until the order arrived. Overhead, PD-2 reconnaissance drones floated at 1,500 feet. To the naked eye, they were invisible, nothing but faint specks dwarfed by the sky, but their feeds streamed high-resolution thermal outlines of every squad moving below. This silence, both on the land and in the air, was not hesitation. It was the final tightening of a noose. Time slowed. Russian operators crouched, scanning the forest line, their weapons ready to swing at the first sign of resistance. What they didn't see was the steel waiting under concealment. Buried housings cracked open as electric motors spun to life, soundless at first. Then the trap snapped. 6 Gatling guns emerged from their covers and opened fire, each unleashing nearly 6,000 rounds every minute. The night filled with unrelenting streams of metal. Sand erupted, trees shredded, and Russian formations broke apart in seconds under the sustained fire. The crack of rapid cannons added to the chaos. Behind the hail of bullets came the growl of 30mm automatic weapons, shells crashing into clusters of men and scattering what had just been a tight line of movement. With their escape to the coast gone and their heavy backup gone even faster, Russian soldiers were left adrift on land. A new measure was rolled out along tree lines, loudspeakers pumping a steady broadcast known as Operation Silent Net. The message made one fact clear: their submarines no longer existed. Their reinforcements had drowned with them. The sound carried across the clearing, and one by one, men in black fatigues began dropping weapons rather than stepping deeper into fire. By 6:18 a.m., the floor of the Black Sea was littered with what remained of 5 submarines, while on land captured Spetsnaz sat under guard. In less than 40 minutes, Ukraine had redrawn the boundaries of defense in modern war. In just 38 minutes, Ukraine demonstrated that overwhelming firepower means little when confronted by a defense built on coordination, sensors, and machine-driven prediction. Submarines, missiles, and elite troops collapsed under precision systems that mapped every option in advance. What once relied on numbers and shock now faced layered responses that neutralized each strike as it unfolded. The role of the commando isn't gone, but the battlefield won't forgive invisibility without digital oversight. In an era where algorithms calculate every step, even the most highly trained soldier risks walking into a spotlight they cannot escape.